Hello. In this video, I want to tell you about the way. If you become a little bit interested in my website here and in what I'm doing in my blogs and my videos and so on the website, you will come across the phrase "the way" quite a bit. So in the sort of heading of the website, I say that the way of Christ is the way of Sophia. So I want to tell you about what I mean by the way especially in relation to Sophia. The phrase, the way originally it comes from John's Gospel, where Jesus says in chapter 14, Jesus says to his disciples, I am the way, the truth, and the life. That's really where the phrase "the way" comes from. That's where I'm taking it from. I'm taking it from John's Gospel, from that verse, but I'm only concentrating on the first part of it, the way, because yes, I believe what Christ actually means is that I am the way to the truth and the life in God, if you want to think about it in that particular way. So we can ask, what exactly does he mean by the way? And of course, when you read the Gospels, everybody who reads them can take their own meaning, as it were, from them. Although we have to be prepared to be enlightened by people who know perhaps more than us or have studied the Gospels more and so on. But in the final analysis, we have to sort of make up our own mind, as it were, don't we? We have to come to Christ and come to God, as it were, on our own terms. So in John's Gospel, and I would firstly want to say that John's Gospel is a different Gospel than the other Gospels. The three Synoptic Gospels are quite different, in fact very different from John's Gospel, the fourth Gospel. I'm sure you might be aware of that. And so what is the precise difference, you can ask, between John's Gospel and the other three Gospels? And one very good way of looking at that problem is to think of the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, as sort of more concerned with you could say, the outer way to God, the outer way of understanding God through Christ. They're more concerned, you could say, with the outer church, the building up of faith, whereas John's Gospel is very much concerned with what's generally called the inner path. And precisely because of that, because it has this sort of more deeply, you could say, spiritual, a lot of people will say it's the sort of the mystical path and so on. But a quick way of understanding the difference is that it's concerned more with, shall we say, the difference between faith and knowledge. There is a difference there between faith and belief and knowledge. If you like, a difference in if you like, simply believing in your heart that what the Gospels say is true and sort of leaving it at that's faith. Many people, and especially in our modern age, want to have this faith element in Christ, in Jesus, sort of influenced or infused with what we call knowledge as well. So I hope you have some idea of, if you are interested in spirituality at all in any kind of serious way, shall we say, I'm sure you will have thought about this, that there is a difference sort of, shall I put it this way, a difference between, say, if you're a Catholic, and I'm sure many people who watch my videos and are interested in my website are Catholics, because after all, it's called Catholic Sophia. If you try to be a good Catholic, you'll go to Mass, you'll say your prayers, you will try to follow the precepts and the teachings and so on of the Church. But many people nowadays find that there has to be a bit more to it than that if you really want to know Christ. And again, I come back to this distinction. In the modern age, the age of information, we live in a very different age than the age in which the Church was built up, which was generally called the age of faith. We live in the age of knowledge now. Now, this whole knowledge thing was very important in the early Church. A lot of the early periods of the Church, the first couple of centuries, are very often called the Gnostic Church, meaning the Greek word for knowledge is Gnostic. But over the centuries, shall we say, gradually, especially as Rome became important in the Church, this sort of knowledge aspect was frowned upon. The priests and the princes of the Church decided that they knew better than the average man and woman, and of course they may have been right and all of that. But we live in a very different age now. We live in the age of knowledge and information, and we want to sort of know. If our faith is to be strong in the modern world, we need to sort of know as well as believe, put it that way. Now, so how then do we go about, as it were, developing our knowledge of Christ Jesus, as distinct from simply having faith in him? And when I talk about knowledge in this inner path sense, in the Gospel of John sense, we're not really talking about theology or what the scholars say or this, what the scientists say about faith and all of this. We're talking about, if you like, self-knowledge. It's a deeper kind of inner knowledge of really knowing yourself. So self-knowledge has always been cultivated within the Church, or within the human life generally, from the time human beings started thinking. They were thinking about self-knowledge. So the ancient sort of mystery religions that predates Christianity always had this self-knowledge element in them, a kind of initiation element. So how do we gain that knowledge in the modern way? So this is why I always say in my blogs and in my videos and the work I'm doing here, I say that when I talk about the way, I'm meaning that your faith has to nowadays be supplemented with meditation. So with me, the way, when I use the phrase the way, I'm also always implying that you practice meditation as distinct from, but also together with prayer, and your practice generally, whatever, if you're a Catholic or a Protestant or whatever denomination you are, you do your practice, and that includes prayer, of course. But when you become a practitioner of the way, in the sense in which I am teaching it and talking about it here, I also say that you should practice meditation as well. I won't go into that here, the precise, ins and outs, as it were, of meditation. I just want to give you a fairly general indication of what I mean when I talk about the way. So when you practice meditation, you essentially, the difference, if you like, between meditation and prayer, as I say, you're developing knowledge of yourself, as distinct as it were from merely expressing your belief in God and so on through prayer. You're developing self-knowledge. So you can ask, what is self-knowledge? Well, self-knowledge is also soul knowledge. It includes this more difficult idea of the soul. You're gaining knowledge of your soul if you're gaining knowledge of yourself. And of course, if you are practicing meditation within the Christian context, your meditation will take a certain form. And that is why really I have set up the Sophia community. If you want to gain from my experience in meditation, and I am a very experienced meditator, I've been meditating for many decades, so I will know what I'm talking about. I will give advice in meditation, and also if you join the Sophia community, I will make special blogs and do special content for the members, people who join it. So that's one way of dealing with the problem of how to, if you like, practice your meditation in a specifically Christian way. You can do it yourself as well, of course. I'm not saying that I'm the only one who can do that. But I'm saying that if you want to sort of bring Sophia into your meditation, and as I say, Sophia, self-knowledge is also knowledge of Sophia, precisely because Sophia is really the world's soul. She is the soul of the world. She's very like God. She's not God. We don't call her God, but she's so similar to God that she is, and we can call her the soul of the world. She is the mother of the world. There are many different ways of thinking about Sophia, and really that's what this website and what I'm doing here is all about, how you can gain this knowledge. There's a problem in the modern world about what the soul is. And we all know we are bodies. Many of us nowadays have very difficulty not only with the idea of the soul, but with the spirit as well. But you won't really understand the spirit, certainly the spirit of Christ, unless you have some idea of what your soul is. So when you practice the way, you will find what I sort of say always in my blogs and videos and so on, is that whereas Christ is the way to God, as he says in the phrase, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the way to the truth and the life in God. So Christ is the way to God, but Sophia is the way to Christ, because you come to the Spirit of God, through the Spirit of Christ, if you like, through your soul. You will never really know unless you know what your soul is, unless you practice self-knowledge through the practice of, Christian meditation. So I hope I have given you some inkling as to what I mean by the way, and when I talk about practitioners of the way. And I hope you will consider joining my Sophia community and help me build up knowledge in the church, and especially if you're a Catholic, knowledge of Sophia, because I think she will become more and more important in our modern world. So thanks for watching, and bye-bye.